Welcome to Trusting Your Intuitive Guidance. And this is definitely a big topic that most people think that they don't have this connection, or someone else is intuitive, or someone is more intuitive or psychic than they are. And the truth of the matter is that we were all born with intuition. We were all born with this sixth sense, if you will, of feeling energy or knowing something or having an idea pop into our heads. And the key is to trust it and know that it is accurately guiding you. And we've just disconnected from that. The fastest way for me to have you understanding what I'm talking about, regardless of where you are on the journey, is if you think about going into a social setting and you meet someone and you just are like, I don't know what it is about that person, but they just rubbed me the wrong way, or I just didn't connect with them, or I didn't feel their energy. And that is your intuitive guidance. Now, I'm not the one here to tell you whether that means that you should pursue exploring that with that person, or just that you were indeed correct. But we all have this intuitive sense about things. And it's important for you to trust it. And it shows up in many, many different ways. And sometimes it just shows up. And then sometimes you're taking the initiative to engage it, to test it, to see, to go, hey, is this really accurate, or what have you? There are signs absolutely everywhere that are guiding you on this journey of life and on this journey of faith. And it is your invitation to engage that. You can look for signs. You can see that there might be a license plate that says something that is affirming something for you. You might look at repetition. So if we see a sequence of numbers or repetition, it depends on your belief in how it will show up. And the biggest question that most people are asking is, how do I know that that was my intuitive guidance, and can I trust it, and can I take action on it? Your intuitive guidance will never steer you in the wrong direction. Again, you might feel it in a repetition. As you begin to identify what it looks like and you take a risk to speak up about it, you'll begin to identify when it is true. And the other thing is that you can, if you have an intuition for someone else, you can certainly go into asking them if that's true for them. In my coaching and mentorship, I use my intuition 100%, but I do a check-in with the other person, because when it's for someone else, you need to give them the opportunity to do a check-in and give them back their inner authority. It's not about setting up a situation where people are coming to you for you to give them intuitive or psychic guidance, if you will, and then they're letting you define what is true for them. That's having someone else give their power away. So there's trusting your intuitive guidance for yourself, and then there's trusting your intuitive guidance that you might get for someone else. So years ago, I was at a workshop and I had just started getting connected with angel cards and feeling what this intuition was really like. I've always had a connection with feeling intuitive or psychic or knowing things, or just literally having a knowing within me and not having a wavering doubt upon that, but still questioning it. So as I was getting ready to go to this workshop, I had brought my first angel card deck, and I was shuffling them as you do, and I was laying out a 3-card spread, and the same 3 cards were coming up. So I shuffled the deck again, and I got the same 3 cards coming up again. And I literally went, because it was new to me, I was getting a little bit freaked out. And so I took the cards and I laid them all out one by one, and I put them back in the deck one by one, and I reshuffled again, and I reshuffled again, and I reshuffled again. And the same 3 cards came out. So I packed the cards in my suitcase, fly to Florida to go to this workshop, get to the hotel room, pull the cards out the first evening, and I shuffle them again, and the same 3 cards came again. And it was like undeniable at this point. It was like the 5th or 6th time that I had done this. And that was what kind of shifted me into believing this. And then in the actual workshop that I went to, I received 2 intuitive messages. And I decided to take a risk and be courageous and share these messages with the 2 people that I received them for. So the one exercise that we were doing is sitting back to back. I can't remember what the exercise was called. It was like a butterfly exercise or something. And what you do is you sit back to back and you start breathing, and you begin to synchronize your breathing with your partner's breathing. And as I was synchronizing my breathing with the girl that I was doing the exercise with, I had tears flowing out of my right eye, just uncontrollably. And the message that I heard was, "You have been hurt by many men in your life." And we turned around to face one another to share with each other about how the experience was for each of us and to share anything that happened during the exercise. And I hesitated because I was afraid of being judged. And that's something that is absolutely necessary to get over, because even if the person judged me, I was still speaking what I experienced. And I get to claim my own experience and speak about it, not from a place of like blame or shame if you're talking about another topic other than what we're talking about here with intuition, but to be able to just share my truth and stand in the power of that experience that I had. And that's what your job is to do. And so I shared with this woman the exact message that I got about, you've been hurt by many men in your life. And it was so validating for her, because apparently she had not really shared a lot with anyone in her life about these experiences that she had. And she started crying, and it was very healing and validating for her what I shared with her. And it was very healing and validating for me as well, because I took a risk. I trusted not only the message that I got, but I trusted going and then sharing that message. So as you begin to do those kinds of things, you will cultivate a strength of knowing, oh, that was an intuition, or that was just, my thought from my own head. And so there's a stronger power when it's an intuition, right? There's a different energy to it. I'll share with you another story of how intuition can show up in your life and how you can begin to trust it. And there may be times where it shows up and you don't really know what it's trying to tell you, but maybe in hindsight you'll see. Reflecting on things and seeing in hindsight is always 20/20, of course. So as I shared with you about the burglary story, the interesting thing was the week before that occurred, every night in the middle of the night, I felt like the hair on the back of my spine was standing up. And it got so intense leading up to the burglary. And again, this is reflecting in hindsight, but it got so intense leading up to the burglary that I had started sleeping with my back to the center of the bed, because my back was on the outside where the windows were. And it just was like this really eerie feeling. And I began also to sleep with a pillow on my back so that I would feel more supported. And it's just interesting in hindsight to see, oh, that happened, and then the burglary happened. So there was something that was alarming me, perhaps. And maybe that's why I was paying attention that day to all of the things that were going on. And the doorbell rang, and that was them really testing to see if anyone was home. And I didn't answer the door because I was working at home by myself. But I was on a higher alert about the car. It could have been just any random car. And I think that leading up to that experience, that was the universe sort of awakening that sixth sense even more by having me being woken up in the middle of the night and feeling this eerie feeling, and literally feeling like the hair on the back of my neck, or the hair on the back of my whole back, was standing up, alarming me and alerting me. So if you begin to pay attention to those kinds of things, and even perhaps keep a journal of when you've received an intuitive guidance, and write it down, and then write down the events that came along with that, you might begin to see patterns, or you might begin to see ways that the universe is communicating to you.